Hello and welcome to the Qreative Life podcast. I'm your host, Amanda Qureshi, but you can call me Q. Welcome to the Qreative Life podcast, Nelson. Thank you for being here, sir.
Thank you for having me, Amanda.
You are a really cool person that I have been watching from afar. As an individual, but also your band, Como Lost Movies. And I had an opportunity to see you play a set, probably 3 months ago. I can't remember exactly, but it was at a little record shop. You were doing a
Love Wheel
charity
Records,
thing.
I believe. I think it was
That's
Love
right,
Wheel.
Love Will. It was at
Yeah.
Love Will. Yeah, and they were
The
doing a
show for
thing where
Sims with Semi Helix, yeah. Well,
with
Semi.
semi-helix. Yeah, yeah. And I learned about you actually through my friend. You know Sonia
Yeah, of course. Yeah, she's
Hernandez.
great.
Yeah, oh, she's magnificent. She actually has introduced me to so much cool music. Yeah, I got to go down and see you guys play, and up until now, I had not seen you play live. I'd only heard online, listened to your music, and um, just blown away. Like you guys are amazing, and I will say, like the type of music that you play, which we'll get into a little later, is not something that I ordinarily listen to, but I've grown really fond of it, and especially your particular spin on it. I think you guys have a really unique sound. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to start off, I'll do a little icebreaker question. I almost always ask people as an icebreaker what was the last book that they read, but I'm going to ask you, what was the last full album that you listened to?
Ooh, man, it's a great question.
Yes.
Well, the last full album I listened to, let me think about it, but can I insert an album I just started listening to that I didn't get to
Yes.
finish? It's the new record from the Idols, and I forget the title. Yesterday, in fact, yesterday I put it on. I was doing some packing, through Bandcamp, we got some people ordered some uh I was gonna say equipment. And so they ordered cassettes and some t-shirts, and so I was packing that. And so one thing I like to do is listen to music, and I've been listening to some of the Idols music, here and there. Some of the singles they've been released, and they did something with LCD Sound System.
Oh.
But another song, and I can't remember the titles. Oh, I can't remember the title of the album at the moment. But what I do remember is that I got through maybe the fourth song, but I will tell you, probably the last full album I listened to was Beyonce's latest country, well, sort of country album. I think it's been 2 years.
Sort of country.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's not really a country album. I was expecting, full on, a whole country album, but it was really more a mix of a lot of styles, I thought. It felt less R&B for sure, but there was an
Mm,
element of still there, very Beyonce. That's Beyonce that we know from Destiny's Child and
yeah.
forward, and from that. But I remember there was a couple of country tunes there, sounding and it was I think it's like 20 something tracks. So I went through all of it. Maybe it's
Wow.
maybe it's 18, 19 tracks. I'm not sure. But that's the last album I listened to. I think it was a few weeks ago, and I was calling my friends, musician friends, and what they thought about it. But most of them had not had a chance to listen to it. This is when it came out that week, and I was
Yeah.
really curious because I was again just wanted to see. I'd heard that single, and again, man, I can't remember these titles. It's like people's names. I forget people's names.
Is it
And I
Texas
remember
Hold'em? That's the one
Texas.
that's out. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And there's like 3 videos based on it, and really inspiring as far as the videos. I love what she's doing and her team coming up with these videos. And I mean, I don't know that that anybody can get away with putting videos out like that. Very simple, but it's just kind of cool, man. Almost like these think of paintings like those still paintings, that we all
Yeah.
know from art history class. And it's almost like she does that with a video. It's like this maybe a single scene throughout the whole thing. Maybe there's a little bit of some kind of action, like the wind blowing something, if I remember correctly, because there was like 3 or 4 videos that she did, and they're really cool. And I was like, man, I said she didn't spend a lot of money on that, did she? You know?
Hmm.
maybe on the director or whoever, but it was really cool to see that. And I'm assuming she has a video for probably every song. 'Cause I think that's what, if you can afford it, that's what I think a lot of artists are doing lately. But yeah, that was a record that I really that's the last record I've heard the whole album, and I started the Taylor Swift one last week. I was just
Right.
curious, and the first track with Post Malone I really liked, but I remember liking that, and I didn't get to that. She has like 20 something tracks on there too. I was like,
Wow.
I'm not doing this. And the reason, the reason that again, it's just I just didn't have time to sit down and listen to all of them. And like last night, as I mentioned, I was into the Idols record, which is just mind blowing. It was a lot more, I would say, a lot more jarring, and I mean that in a really, really good way. It was really cool. Like all these, I'm trying to think. And they don't sound anything like Devo, but I heard like Devo style of their art punk rock. So I guess you would say it's like this art. It wasn't as punk sounding as more. It was more art punk, if that makes any sense. We bestow so many labels on all styles of
Mm.
music. That's what comes to mind. Really, post-punk art, just really, really fantastic. And I thought the Beyonce album I thought was really good, obviously polished, but there's some really good tracks on there. But it is not a country album. I will
Okay.
say it is
Thanks
not
for
a
clarifying.
country
I haven't
album.
listened to it, so I can't speak to it.
That's my
Yeah.
take on it. I mean, if Beyonce says it's a country album, then she can say that. But I was expecting a full-on country album with all country songs and country sounding songs, and there is that, but the album's a lot more than just country style songs.
Well, just to put your mind at ease, Beyonce doesn't listen to my podcast. I'm pretty sure. So I don't think she's going to be upset. Um, that's interesting. I like I said, I haven't listened to that or Taylor Swift. And to be perfectly frank, I'm not really much of a fan of either. I respect who they are and what they do, but it's just not my. I'm I have different taste. But I feel like I am obligated, not obligated. I feel like I want to listen to them just because it keeps me sort of in the conversation. I can understand what the dialogue is about online and stuff like that. So I'll get around to it at some point.
Yeah, and if I may add to that, I think, yeah, of course, I don't go around, playing Beyonce, blasting it on the car stereo either, all the time. And my wife definitely likes Beyonce, but again, she's not blasting that either, on the car stereo when we're driving around. But what I will say is, I listen to these records because, obviously I'm fascinated by the songwriting or the songs that I've heard over the years. And again, I'm a casual listener. I'm definitely a casual listener for Taylor Swift. I definitely have a little more experience with Beyonce. And actually, we did a cover. We were a backing or a backup band for during South by. We were a backup band for Sheila, who's a Latin artist based in Miami now. She's from Austin. Well, she's based in Austin, Miami, and she had this Beyonce song that she had on her set list, and so we learned that tune, and I think it was Daddy's Rules. I think it's an older, but that's a very country sounding tune. Fantastic song too.
Wow.
And I was like, I remember hearing the first. I had to really. It took me a couple of tries because I was like, let me check this out. And it's got this really great beat. The kick drum's going, and then you got this really twangy guitar, and it's just the delivery. She nails it. Out that why aren't there more of those songs on this record? I'm not sure. I might be from Lemonade. I think the song might be from her record Lemonade, which I've never listened to as a whole. But it was fantastic. Playing it live was a lot of fun. We did it, like I said, during South by this Latina Palooza. I don't know if you heard of it, but it's all
Uh-uh.
female Latina artists. Every year it is held at Cooper's downtown. I hadn't been indoors until South by for the show, and like I said, we were her backup band. And Latina Palooza really focuses on female Latina artists. Every year they've been having the Tiaras have done it. Obviously, Patricia Vaughn. Think of any Latin female artist in this town, and they've played there. And so yeah, we got a chance. Leslie Naga played there as well. It was great.
Is it actually part of South by or is it sort of adjacent?
It is a South by show, I believe.
I see. So you have to have a badge to get in.
Oh no, no, no! Actually, no. You
Oh,
can.
okay.
You know what? I don't know. I didn't have. I mean, I had a badge, so it's a great
I
question.
see.
I
Well,
don't know. I don't. I'm not sure. I can't. I couldn't say.
Well, I hadn't even heard of this, but like
No one
I have a
it's
lot.
city sponsored actually. It's city sponsored. I think
Oh,
it's
okay.
yeah, it's a city
Okay.
sponsored event for sure.
Okay. Well, I'm definitely that's on my radar for
Yeah,
next
I'll
South
let you
by
know.
because yeah,
Yeah,
that
yeah.
sounds amazing. Going like coming back to this album conversation a little bit, we grew up. I'm assuming we're somewhere in the same age range. We're both
I
grown ass
I
adults.
grow with records. Yeah, I grow with
Yeah, yeah,
records.
right. Yeah,
I know.
and it's kind of weird. And I'm curious to know about like how you as an actual artist, as a musician, have had to evolve the way that you make music for this new landscape where people really aren't listening. Some people do. I'm not going to say that it's a thing of the past. I believe in the album. I actually am very passionate about the album, but a lot of people are not buying them in that form. They're buying singles. Do you think that that's been like what's the impact been just in general, do you think, on music culture and on the way that you are both listening to music and producing music?
Well, the immediate impact obviously is that most of our singles are being sold, for 99 cents on on your streaming platforms, and that obviously there's just no way to live off of that. I mean, what
Right.
the reality that I have that we've faced, and we talk about this once in a while within my with my bandmates and just musicians in general, and we just talk like touring is where the money's at this point because then you can sell, you can actually sell an album, sell a CD or a cassette, right? And so the impact has been if you're gonna make an album, it's just more for a souvenir for someone who actually is a fan of the band or just wants to have yeah, a souvenir. And I think that's just really how things are now. It really bums me out that people are just picking singles here and there. So now, and the thing is, I'm not sure how I feel about it. Like there's definitely some. I'm like I'm not like it doesn't anger me.
Mm,
It's just the way that people's listening habits have changed because of the technology, right? And so you can't really get upset with that. What does suck is, been doing this for such a long time, 20 plus years,
yeah.
that oh, okay, I sort of have to figure out how to, not that I ever made that much money playing music, but figure out how to bring income in because obviously selling out, no one's buying albums. People are buying vinyl, sure, and I guess my favorite medium. I don't know about
Yeah.
yours, but vinyl's always
Yeah,
been my
yeah.
favorite. And I've always held down to it. Look, I was a little kid when vinyl was, when I discovered vinyl, my mom, would play it and stuff. And then, but by the time I came to UT and went to college, I was probably one of the few people that actually was still into the turntables and listening to albums and buying them, used that even, when it wasn't popular, CDs were more popular. I never liked CDs. What I didn't like about them is all that plastic.
Yep.
And, definitely and I definitely want to leave the world better than it found it, right? And using less plastic is one of the ways to do it. But I didn't like the size of the CD compared to an album because I love looking at the liner notes and whatever the cover
The
art.
art. Yeah.
Yeah, the cover art. And so, there's always going to be the community like you and me who's going to dig it, and people are not. But I mean, do I get upset about it? No, I mean, I really don't. I'm more concerned with, okay, this is the present. This is what it is now. If I want to be in the music business, this is what I'm going to need to do to sustain. At least at a minimum, sustain the band, and which is playing shows and trying to push our albums and t-shirts and stuff at shows so we can at least have some make some money so we can do it all over again and put another record out and new shirts and whatever other gear that we can come up with and hopefully the music community will fans will come and purchase them. But think about this, Amanda, is that we have the right not to purchase those things, right? I mean, now most artists do offer albums. And I know, and on the other side of that, I like the convenience of being able to check out an artist who I've never heard of and listen to a single. And if I like it, then I might go buy the record. That's happened a lot. That's happened a lot to me. I mean, like Chicano Batman being one of the one of the artists that comes to mind right now. I don't know if you know Chicano Batman out of
Yeah, I sure do.
amazing. And I heard their stuff online, and I was, why do you dig this guy? So when their last album came out, again, it's been a couple of years, maybe pre-pandemic, I think. I bought their album. It was fantastic, and they just have a new one out that was produced by one of my favorite producers, John Congleton. So I can't wait, and I've heard it online, and I need to go buy that album. It was amazing. So I'm assuming that a lot of people probably do what I'm doing, which is, oh, I'll check out a song. Let me see if I, especially if it's a new artist, and if I like it, oh, I'll do a little more research, and next thing you know, if they have some physical product, an album, hopefully, I'm buying it. Cassettes too.
100%. Yeah, we're old.
Yeah.
Um,
Sure.
I think I think what it is that the way that I learned how to consume music, the way that I learned how to appreciate music was in album form. And what you got with that was with each album, you got a snapshot of these artists and what was happening in their lives then, right? Like we all know Fleetwood Mac rumors, right? Like that was a very like that was just like a moment in time when these like brilliant people got together and did a bunch of cocaine and like all their terrible drama, and that can't be reproduced, right? And it's the same like you watch you see a band like the Rolling Stones or whatever you, if you don't like them, whatever, but I am a fan of the Rolling Stones, and I've listened to everything from the beginning to the end. Like I have listened to their whole catalog, and you see this progression, you see this evolution, and you get an idea. And then, because we're fans of music, we're fans of the artists, and we're really interested in what makes them tick and, their process and all of that. And so, you learn about who was going through a divorce at this time and what was happening at this time, and what was happening in the world, like what kind of, world events were impacting this music. And so each one just feels like a really special and unique snapshot. I think that's the thing I miss, is getting to know artists as they're telling you this story in a really specific format. And yeah, I mean, I guess you can do that. What's really ironic is actually Beyonce and Taylor Swift both do this. They're
Yeah,
actually really
I
good
was
at this.
just about to
Yeah,
say it. Like,
yeah.
I one thing of their appeal apparently has been, and this is stuff that I've read because again, I'm not involved in Taylor Swift's catalog, not at all. But yeah, to your point, they're also sort of telling us what's the term I'm looking for? I guess they're it's almost like a diary, right? It's like an
Yep.
audio diary that they've been keeping as well, similar to the Fleetwood Mac example you just gave.
Yeah. 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 Like Lemonade, we all know, like that came out of the whatever was going on with her and Jay-Z at that time. Like it was just like, and everyone was following along with it. We were all really
Yeah, yeah.
invested in it. And even if you're not a fan, you know that story. So yeah, I think I do miss that. I do miss that. And to your point, I really enjoy having physical media. This may be because I'm an old person, but I really enjoy having it in hand. And I love just the feel, the weight, the sound of vinyl. I'm 100% on board with that.
Well, my seven-year-old niece came to our Waterloo in store last, when did we do it? I think it might have been, yeah, November, last November. And she came over to Waterloo and she bought one of our records. So it's the first vinyl record she's ever bought. Yeah, and so
Wow.
yeah, as you can imagine, I mean, this is whatever's going to call them now. I don't know what she's considered, the triple Z millennial. I'm not sure, but anyhow, she bought her first one. She was so proud of it. She played it at home, and
Oh,
it's her uncle playing the stuff, so she's digging it right for now. But
uh-huh.
more importantly, it's like maybe a seed was planted, and I never ever offer because I don't want to impose that on somebody, and also just it's like we'll decide. Let her decide if she wants to buy it. So yeah, so she told her mom, "Hey, can we buy a record?" They wouldn't even let me give them one. They're like, "No, we're gonna buy it." Okay, cool. And
That
so
is
yeah,
awesome.
no, it's so cool. And again, that I was really proud because the artwork on the cover of our latest album, it's something that Kat Barrera, a local artist, did for us. And man, I'm so happy with the artwork. We've been talking about it for a while. She had done a 7-inch cover art for us right before the pandemic for the 7-inch we put out via Tucha Soul Records, and fantastic work that she did. And so we sort of just took a little bit from that and used that to inform the album. And I was so thrilled. Just gave her a little bit of the theme and what I was going for. And more importantly, what I wanted was, just kind of more representation on the cover. Just the cover has, this. what appears to be at least if we're gonna go by gender, male and female, but it's us to that's to be anybody
Sure.
can decide what they are. And but that being said, is they were brown and stuff. Something really important to me is to sort of bring to the table, especially on cover albums, if we're featuring images that represent, people. Yeah, I was just really happy to hear. Going back to my niece, I was just happy that she had something that she could see and hold, and hopefully that's gonna, again, planting that seed, and it's just like, oh, this is cool. To your point about holding it in your hand, looking at it, being able to take the record, and then you have to you have to be, gentle with it too. You have to,
Mm.
take the vinyl out, place it there properly onto their turntable, and then you have to actually, be part of the listening experience physically,
Right.
not just, listening, but it requires a physical sort of interaction at that point.
100%. That is actually the best part because, we have so much media all the time, everywhere, devices in every room, multiple going, it's just constant chaos. And there's something really wonderful about turning down the lights and putting on a record and just listening to it, right? And then getting your butt off the couch and then flipping it over and going back and finishing it. Like it's just a really it's to me that is how like it's a really great way to appreciate music. You're not just taking it for granted. You are giving it your full attention, and I think that's an important thing. And look, not everybody's that way. I just am very passionate about music, and my family has always been, and that to me is how you show appreciation for music, is you sit and you listen to it.
Yeah, the majority of my friends and everyone has vinyl. Everyone
Mm.
has vinyl, and they have a record player that they use, and we have that in our living room as a centerpiece. My wife and I are really big on playing vinyl. We love it. Yeah, so we'll sit down and again just say, hey, let's just or we'll open the window, sit on the porch, and just have the record playing, and someone's got to get up and switch it over, and that's fine. No,
Yeah, for sure.
it's the 45s that are a pain in the ass.
Yeah,
You're gonna
that's
be
a good
close
point.
by. You're gonna be close by. But I love to get one. Remember the old school ones where you could stack a whole kind of like a
Yes.
huge. Oh my God, I
Yes.
want to get my hands on something like that. I'm sure there's some kind of device I can add to our turntable, but I haven't looked into it, and I'm sure it's not cheap.
Right. Okay, so I want to hear your story. I mean, you are clearly very passionate about your roots. You are Latino. You come from the border between Texas and Mexico. You grew up in the valley in McAllen. Is that right?
Callan wants
Yeah.
to go ahead.
Yeah. And your music is cumbia. What was your journey from youth to the time that you came to, found Como las Movies? What was your sort of journey as far as like learning that you are a musician, that this is something that this is what you want to do with your life? I mean, it's a huge decision, right? And there's always somebody that's willing to tell you that you shouldn't do it, right?
Right, of course.
Uh,
Is there gonna be a part two? Because you want me to tell you the whole story when you get part two?
Give me the highlights, brother.
I'll give you the highlights. So, I think my musical journey began as a kid. I might have been four, might have been five.
Wow.
Yeah, 4 or 5. So two incidents happened that I've looked back on now. I think people are wired a certain way sometimes. I mean, well, I don't think. Let me rephrase that. It seems that sometimes we're wired for things.
Hmm.
I I don't know. Maybe we are, maybe we're not. I have no idea. But specifically to me, it seems like maybe I was wired to be involved in music, and not necessarily as a musician. Just I just love music. I was 4 years old, and I was at the store with mom. And back in the day, they used to have you could in the convenience stores. They still do, but they used to have a little rack that you could spin and would have toys, just hanging there. And the one that spoke to me, and I said, this is years later when I remembered this, was this Popeye saxophone. It was a little cheap plastic one, might have been like maybe 8 inches tall or something like that. Or I don't know. Maybe it was bigger, but I can't remember. I can't remember exactly. And I wanted it so bad. I don't know why. So that was one that I can remember as far back. And then I think I was 5 the following year. It was Easter, and with my mom, and we were living in McAllen, so mom, we walked to this. We didn't have a car, so mom would we would walk to the store and stuff like that. And we went to this like department store. It wasn't a department store. I think it was like might have been a Kroger. There used to be a Kroger back in the day in the valley, I
Hmm.
believe. So yeah, it was a Kroger. That's what it was. So then they were having the Easter stuff out, and one of the Easter baskets had a guitar in it, plastic guitar. And so mom, for some reason, say, "Hey, I'm going to use the bathroom. Will you hold my purse? Well, I'm going to leave my purse here." So I'm there standing by the bathroom outside, of course, and with mom's purse. I wasn't holding it. I think she just laid it next to me while she went inside, and I'm looking at this guitar on inside the Easter basket, and I walk towards it. And mom comes out, and she's like, "Hey, where's the purse?" And I'm like,
Oh
"Oh,
no.
she hates talking about it." I brought it up a few years ago, and oh my goodness, I don't want to talk about that. And I'm right because she had everything in there. She had her keys to the house.
Oh
Uh,
no.
she had her all her money. She used to carry everything in her purse, and of course, lesson learned from her part, never to let her kids watch her purse, but also not to put everything in there. So we lost everything. I think she
Oh
kept the
my God.
certificates because we would go to Mexico all the time. So
Yeah.
we had to have our birth certificates. We didn't need to cross, once in a while when you had a
Yeah.
border patrol agent who just didn't believe we were, from the States. So we had to show proof. So I think that's why I was in the purse, but everything. And man, she cried all the way home. And I was like, oh, shit.
Can I assume that you did not get the guitar?
Oh, definitely not. I mean, there was nothing to be bought at that point. I think mom had, I mean, and I think she had all her money and food stamps and all kind of stuff in there, man. We had nothing at that point. So,
Damn.
and again, she didn't want to talk about it because I brought it up. I said, and it's been a while, and I wanted to know more, but she's like, I don't want to talk about that. Like, whoa, okay, wow, that really.
Wow.
But she was maybe I cut her at a bad time. I'm supposed to see her next month, so maybe I'll ask her then. Maybe she'll be in a better mood or something. I don't know. But yeah, that was my first memories. And again, I don't know where that came from, to be honest, because a few years later, I had an older cousin. And he turned me on to music, and he was big into, so he was maybe 4 or 5 years older than I was, and he turned me on to rock and other stuff, all the stuff that was coming up, like AC/DC,
Oh
and
yeah.
but even like Bowie and stuff like that, old school Bowie and stuff, which I didn't get. I was too young. And so he might have been, at that time, he might have been 11, 12. So I would have been like 7 or 8 years old. Anyway, so around that time, we would listen to music all the time. So he was like, I didn't have a big brother, so he was kind of like my big brother, and my mom and his mom are sisters, and they're very close. So we'd see each other all the time. He lived in Mexico. So every time I go to
No.
Mexico, he like, hey man, let's check out this music. And I was like, yeah, this is awesome. And we would sit there and just listen to records. AC/DC was a big one, I remember. He
Yeah.
loved AC/DC, and we would listen to AC/DC, and I was like, man, my one of my memories is, again, he's a little older, right? And almost a teenager. So he's like, man, I think he sounds like that because he's on drugs. Like, oh yeah, dude. Like, I was like, we should probably do drugs so we can have a voice like that because we wanted
Oh
to sound.
my God.
Well, we didn't know. Of course, we didn't do. At least I didn't do it. I was a 7-year old kid, so
Right,
definitely.
right.
And he wasn't doing drugs, and not at that point, at least. And yeah, so we just, because it's just, and it's so crazy to us, I was born in Texas, but my first language is Spanish because mom, came from Mexico and raised us in Texas, and then we spent our time in Mexico, and all of our family, nobody was English. Nobody really was speaking any English, except for no, not even the older cousins, actually, because they were in Mexico. So anyhow, so this Americanization was just starting for us, but we loved, well, my cousin loved the rock, and so I loved it too. And actually, I mean, I definitely, fell in love with AC/DC and stuff, which I don't really don't listen to that much anymore, but I do like Highway to Hell. That was a great album.
Oh
But
yeah.
again, I was a little kid when I was listening to that, and it was just like it was amazing. Yeah, so he was big on that. And then we would cut out guitars and play along, and I would always be the guitar player, and he'd be the bass. I can't remember. We'd just pretend that we were in a band, and I loved it. And I remember one time, I think around that time, I was 7 or 8 years old. He's like, in Spanish, he's like, you know what? You should you should start a band. Because he was in Mexico. He thought that nothing could get done over there. Because also, it's kind of frowned upon, to listen to rock, especially what, late 70s, early 80s.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
it was really, it was the devil's music and all that kind of
Yeah, yeah.
crap. And so he, his dad would always give him shit about it, but he, he had his group of friends and they were all rockers or whatever, and he was the first one to grow his hair long. He was the first one to get a tattoo. So I was in awe, like, oh my God, you're so cool. You
Wow.
know, but he was music. He loved music. He didn't play an instrument. And then, but I think he believed that because he was in a situation in Mexico where he really didn't have access or the money to, he thought, man, you should start a band. I'm like, I'm 7, 8 years old. Like, what talking about? What do you start a band? I don't even know what the fuck that means. But
Wow.
he planted a seed. And by the time I became, 14, 15-year-old, I mean, I was always loving music. But I also didn't have access to any instruments, and I don't come from a musical family. I do have a cousin actually who's about 10 years older than I am, and he actually in the 90s he was able to get some of his songs to some of these bigger artists in Mexico, like a Bronco or a Límite or Intocables, which is, so he's been living off of that. He's been doing really well with that. Mostly that
Wow.
early grupo norteño, grupero music from the early mid 90s, I think. And so, yeah, he's still in that business. And, we always talk about music or whatever, and I'm working on a song. Oh, I'm working on a song. We haven't talked recently, but last time at a wedding, we were, hey, what are you working on? I'm working on this. I'm working on that. So he was the other, but he, because he was older, we really didn't connect, and he was in Mexico most of the time, and so I didn't get to see him very much. But that was the only one that I could think of, and that was it. But in my immediate family, and none of my friends, no one played music, so we just thought it was I think my cousin, looking back at it now, I think he just thought, well, you should because I can't. He didn't say
Yeah.
that, but I think that's looking back at it, it's like, I don't know, he's like, I have no access to any of this. You live in the States, so you have more access to things. That might have been his thinking, but he was older, so maybe he didn't explain that to me. But I think when he blurted that out at me, it stuck. And next thing you
Huh.
know, I'm a teenager, like trying to learn how to play. The problem was, as I discovered it when me and my buddy, we're 14, 15 years old. Hey man, let's start a band. Yeah, yeah, cool. Because we're starting to write poetry, really bad poetry. I had one.
Whatever.
No, seriously, I had one again. I'm 14 or 15, but by that
Yeah, yeah.
time, we had my friend, he had older brothers, and so, we got to partake sometimes in some activities that we were underage to be doing, but one of them was drinking for sure. And so I had a stupid poem that I remember writing in school, I think in 10th grade, called Booze Brothers.
Oh my
Sorry.
God.
It was awful. It was awful. I can remember the what I wrote, but I just remember the title, and I think I had done try to do it like in Kiss style, like the Z, the Kiss, the S.
Oh yes.
So I had started with that, and then some bullshit like that. But you're a kid, right? And again, there's no peers, there's no one. I mean, and I didn't get in band because I couldn't afford to get
Right,
it.
right.
Apparently, we didn't know that you could actually rent tone, and mom didn't know any of that stuff. And so, being raised by a single mom, and then I'm helping mom raise two other siblings, there's really no chance. But for some reason, I just kept at it. And eventually, ended up. Oh, so I found out that I was a left-handed guitar player twice, actually. In sixth grade, they had this thing program called the Queer Guitarist. That was in school. It was maybe third through sixth grade or something like that. Anyways, and so the sixth graders could apply for this weekly guitar classes. And man, I mean, I had no guitar again. I've been wanting to do it. First, like I said, it's always been a part of what I wanted to do, and I always dreamt about playing a guitar and learning how to play, but I had no access to anything like that. So I thought this is my opportunity. So you would sign up for this class and you would learn like 3 or 4 songs, and then you'd get on the parade, the city parade. I forgot what kind of parade it was. So I was like, fuck yeah. But more importantly, I get to learn how to play guitar. Get to class. And so the test was, I told you we're gonna get part two for this. And so the test
It's all
the
good.
test the test was that you had to identify all the parts of the guitar. And the headstock, the bridge, I think the tuning pegs, I don't know. So you have to label them, right? So then we took the test in the cafeteria, remember, and you had to cover. So you're like, and I studied my ass. Of course, I got 100. And then
Nice.
later that, I think the following week, it was every Thursday. So instead of going to PE, which is awesome, you could just go to guitar class. So I go to guitar class, I don't know how many people were selected. There was maybe 20, 25 of us maybe in the class. End up grabbing my guitar and he's talking about something or other. I can't remember some chord thing. And then he comes up to me and goes, "What are you doing?" So, well, you're holding it wrong. It's a right-handed guitar. You're playing it the other way, the wrong way. And I'm like, well, this is, and I remember I responded, well, this is how I play, because I've had, tennis rackets and brooms and shit like that. And the guitars that my cousin and I cut out, prior, when I was 7 years old. And he's like, no, switch it over. So then I switched it over. It's like, play, and that's how you play. And I'm like, I can't. This doesn't work. He goes, well, if you're not going to play that way, then you can walk. Yeah, then you can't be in this class. So I put the
Oh my
guitar down
God. Are
and
you
walked.
left-handed in general?
Yes, yes,
Okay, okay.
yeah. No, I'm a lefty. I write with my left. Eat with my left. Yeah. So poke my nose with my left. uh, brush my teeth with my left hand.
Excellent,
Anyway,
excellent.
yeah.
Well, that's
So
not, I mean, that's kind of a drag. That sucks, actually.
that kind of led me to poetry.
Haha.
you know, because I think it was junior high when I started writing like poetry, and then it got worse. But I do remember having, hip hop was starting to sort of appear in the mainstream, and of course, through friends and stuff, we listen to some cool shit, and I started writing, rap lyrics. I mean, I couldn't rap, and I never had any desire to be a rapper. I wanted to be a guitar player, right? But I
Yeah.
would rap lyrics, and I remember I had like a rap lyric showdown or contest with some other guy in seventh or eighth grade. I think I won. I mean, it was just between friends. It wasn't like a school sponsored thing, but I remember that. Yeah. So then in high school, being reminded that I'm a left-handed guitar player. Between that sixth grade and then high school, the Blues Brothers poetry era. they, I ended up a neighbor had a plastic Bugs Bunny guitar, kind of got life size. It had one string on it. So yeah, I must have been maybe 12, 13 when I got this guitar. And I remember wanting to learn. The people that I was around, they're all, we were listening to again, a little bit of hip hop for sure. So breakdancing did also take me away from focusing on this idea
Oh,
of,
were you breaking? Were you
oh
breaking
yeah,
in the day?
I was breaking all
Hell
that stuff.
yeah.
I was Bones. That was my breakdancing name, Bones. And
Right on.
I was part of a breakdancing group called Popcorn. They were good, man.
Hmm.
Peter and Strawberry, they were awesome. Peter Rock and Strawberry, they were awesome. They were the leaders of the group. But I had this plastic guitar that I grabbed from my neighbor, and I would just one string, and I would learn how to play on that. Just try to mimic what I was hearing on the radio, or whatever. And it was awful, obviously, but
What, just by
and
like moving your fingers on the frets?
yeah, just on the one string, trying to just make notes out of that.
Wow,
Again, I had
interesting.
no idea. I had no idea. And then fast forward to 10th grade, I ended up again reminded that I was a lefty, and we bought a guitar, and I knew it was the right-handed guitar, but didn't realize. So my buddy and I, we mowed a lawn, and we bought this guitar at the flea market from a friend of
Wow.
ours whose parents had like a little shop there at the flea market, a permanent shop at the flea market in there in Mercedes, Texas, which is used to be very popular back in the day. And man, it was funny because came home, and because me and my friend Joe were gonna start a band, so we were both gonna share the guitars. So we both worked. We threw $15 into buying this guitar each, and we both mowed the lawn. And I think we did a couple of lawns. And okay, we got $30. Let's go buy this. And we got it from Rudy. May he rest in peace. Come home, and I'm like, yeah, man. And Joe's like, here, man. I was like, hey, man, let me play. Now he goes, oh, I had changed the strings. I forgot I had changed the strings on it before I told him. That's right, because I borrowed it for like maybe because he's like, yeah, man, go ahead. You get started first, and I'll come back. So we were gonna switch every week, and then
Wow.
he realized, hey man, I can't fucking play this thing like this. It's fucking upside down. Oh shit, you're right. So for about I would say 6 months, I had to pay for strings, which I could not afford. So and I would use the strings that we were already, that we were using, and switch them over for him. Because he was like, I'm not gonna switch them
Like
to you
every week?
every other week or something like that. Yeah. And then
Dang.
we got tired of it because they, strings would be popping or whatever. And sometimes, he wouldn't come and pick up the guitar. And so I'd be like, oh, I have an extra week with it. So I would keep it like that. But it was just back and forth. So I was having to get like high E strings every time and a B string. And the weirdest thing, though, I was telling the story about the strings recently to somebody that there was this bike shop that sold Lucy's, like cigarettes, Lucy's, remember? Do you
Uh-huh.
remember? Well, there was Lucy's of string for guitar strings. I don't know.
What?
It was called Frenchies. The bike shop was called Frenchies, and I don't know what. Looking back, it's like, why did they have this available? And how did I find out that they had this? So then I convinced Joe that he needed to go buy a bass. We worked the fields. I worked cantaloupe and sugar beet and stuff like that. And so he went off to North Carolina and he went to work tobacco. And I said, bring a bass when you come back. And sure enough, he brought a bass. And then I was able to keep that guitar for a minute. And yeah, so then finally graduated to a bass, and I actually that guitar, I don't know whatever happened to it, and I graduated to another one. And mom was like, the money you're making working is to help out the family, not for you to spend money on this. So, but I convinced her. I said, well, it's like I really want to play, and this whole argument. And I'm like, what, 15 at this point? Yeah, I'm working. I should be able to use this money to buy something that I want. And I said, I just want this guitar. That's all I'm asking for. It's like $100. But $100, with a single mom and
For sure.
and all this shit, and two other siblings. I mean, and we, as teenagers, we're fucking eating the shitload. We eat all the time, man.
Yep.
So, yeah, I got that again. It's a righty guitar. It was like a Les Paul copy, some shitty brand, but that's what finally got me going. And then, but believe it or not, the first band I finally joined, I started playing drums in that band. In high school, it's like, oh, great. So I didn't play guitars, like I'm playing drums, which is fine. I just wanted to be in a band. And then
Yeah.
the second band I joined, which, graduated just a little bit to a better band, they had me play bass. I was like, shit, man. So
So
but it was
what
fun.
were you listening to at that time? Like when you were
All, all,
14,
all
15,
the all the
16?
stuff on the radio, man. All the stuff on the radio, like
Yeah.
all the hair metal music that was playing. What do they call it?
Glam rock.
Glam rock,
Yeah.
yeah. That
Or
was the
stadium
movie
rock.
going on in the late '80s and stuff like that. So that
Yeah.
was cool. And so yeah, so I mean, it was cool, and I dug it, and we had to play those songs. What I didn't connect with was the lyrics. That's what I wasn't connecting with. It was all about,
Oh.
I'm sleeping with as many women, and you think of like the Bon Jovis and the
Oh
Poisons, and
yeah.
like I don't relate to any of that shit. Like, man, I live out in the boonies, man. We have no paved roads. We have we live out what they call colonias. So, we're not living in the city. We're living way the fuck out there. Unincorporated, I think is the term. They haven't been incorporated to the city yet. And so, which they call colonias. And so, because again, we were fucking poor, man. So I couldn't relate to any of that. And it was finally, I think, man, I tell you, I was late to the game, but probably by the early 90s, someone turned me on to, at that time, what was really alternative music, what we know as alternative music back in the day.
Yeah.
Not the latest. The labels now obviously are just, but they've always been labels, right? I remember someone turned me on to Smiths. I've never heard the Smiths before, and I thought this is really interesting. This is different. Fell in love with it. The Cure, the
Yeah.
interest in the Cure, they've been around forever, right? They've been around
Oh yeah.
since I was a little kid. I'd never heard of them. My cousin, I think, who was big into the rock stuff, again, he had listened to he played would play some Bowie, I remember, some punk rock, I remember, maybe the Clash and Plasmatics, but I just remember one of the things he did play was, which really freaked me out because it's so different, but now it's a big part, sort of like as far as an influence for me now, and not necessarily the band, but the style of music. Well,
The electronic music.
yeah, they I saw him play recently. Not recently, but a few years ago, and I can't remember their name. It'll come to me in a minute. So he
Okay.
turned me on to the stuff, and I remember it was really so different from the AC/DC stuff or any of the rock stuff that he was playing. And it really caught my attention. I was like, whoa, this is, but I didn't do anything about that. But then in my 20s, my early 20s, I was like, holy shit. The new wave stuff started coming through. And it was through these people that I met. The classic rock guys that I was hanging out with, I decided to kind of move away from that because again, it just wasn't speaking to me.
Hmm.
And I was like, this stuff over here, that the lyricism here is pretty fucking cool.
Yeah.
Uh, I mean, fortunately, Morrissey now is a fucking racist piece of shit,
Well,
uh,
yes.
but lyrically, that stuff he was doing back in the day was really, really resonated with me, and only because it was so different at the time. And I was like, this isn't really talking about, hey man, I partied and got wasted and I slept with these many people, and it was great. It was great that it wasn't that. I was like, oh, this
Yeah.
is cool.
Yeah.
It was
Yep.
definitely about
100%.
had to do with teen angst and feeling of and all these emotions that he was tapping into, that also the Cure as well. It's also just the quality of their voice and the style of their singing, and just all that was just mind-blowing to me. It's like, this really resonates with me, this speaks to me, and this
Yeah.
is what I want to be doing. I was already in my early 20s when I hit all, hanging out with, when you hang out with people, that's kind of what you're going to be listening to. And if you're around with those friends and that's where you, and that's kind of where and you don't really seek. And I was seeking, but I wasn't as adventurous in my teens as I became in my 20s. I was like, I got to do something else. This is not working out for me. I suck at this anyways, and I don't want to be doing this. And it was a bunch of cover bands that we were doing. And so then I discovered new wave and of course the early punk rock, and next thing you know, I was like, "Oh, I love this stuff." And so then I really jumped into all that. And then one thing led to another, came to Austin, and then started a band called Shaft, a Grupo de Rock in the late 90s. And we had one album out, and it was definitely of the times, this whole pop punk thing that was coming out. And the reason I was doing that was because of, again, the group of people I was with at the time were
Sure.
doing. But by 2000, I was like, I don't want to do any of this. Is not for me. So I started kind of just listening back to what I grew up with, the cumbia stuff, which I've always liked, but you kind of just, you're discovering yourself and just kind of new things that aren't part of what your parents, they're on your
Sure.
parents. It's not your parents, it's your music, right?
Sure.
And for me, discovering, like I said, the whole new wave, early '80s, new wave stuff was kind of my thing at that point. And it wasn't also my cousin's stuff. It was my stuff.
Yeah.
So that became my thing. But then in 2000s, I was like, you know what, man, I I really don't want to do this, and this is not really for me. And again, just decided to. I started hanging out with a whole different group of people, and because of college and all this stuff too, and meeting these people, it's like, oh, wait a minute, I miss those cumbias my mom would play. I miss those crooners from and this rock en español stuff that was from the 90s that I never listened to. I started listening to in the 2000s. So, it's just kinda catching up. But I would say the catalyst that was a conscious decision was when I heard Shakira's album, Donde Están los Ladrones, a girlfriend I was seeing at the time. It might have been 2000, 99, 2000. She played this album that had come out, I think in 97, 98 maybe, by Shakira. And not the Shakira that it's the brunette Shakira.
There's another one?
Oh yes, I'll have to share that record with you.
Damn.
Yeah, and her unplugged before she the Americanized before she did the crossover. There's a great unplugged that she did from her first two albums that were
Wow.
all in Spanish. And that record, there was this the first song that came out that on the record. The record's called "Donde Están los Ladrones?" Where are the thieves? Is what it's called. And I just learned recently that she called the record that because when she was making the record, she was at an airport with her notebooks with all the lyrics ready to go, and because she was gonna go, either she was about to go in the studio and sing, or she was flying somewhere and then come back, but she had all her lyrics. Someone stole all her
Oh
lyrics.
no.
Yeah, I think the music had been recorded, or they were about to record the record, maybe, and so she had to figure out what she was saying and kind of just try to remember what she had written. And but anyways, that song is called Sorda Tortumuda. I think yeah, Sorda Tortumuda, Tartamuda. Sorda Tartamuda was the single that I listened to. Man, it just blew my mind. I was like, whoa.
What was it that blew your like tell me what it did for you
That's
when
a
you
great
heard it?
question.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, it sent chills down all over. I got chills. It was this trumpet in there.
Ah,
And I've never been I mean I like brass. I would like horns and stuff, but I've never really
sure.
been good. I think saxophone was my favorite. If you were to ask me what's your favorite brass instrument or reed, I guess it's a reed. But that it turns out that after listening to that song, the trumpet comes at whatever, I'm probably off key. And then I think lyrically what she was singing, but also in the melody she was doing, oh, wait a minute. I can do the I can do what I've been doing in this other bands, from the classic rock stuff to the pop punk stuff. I can do that in Spanish and also bring other elements, not just guitar and
Mm.
drums. And what she was doing, she's combining all these great elements in there, which is the rock en español movement kind of did a little bit of that. There's a great band called Café Tacuba that I'm a big fan of, very influential in what my previous band for Como las movies, and Como las movies definitely inspired by that. But it was just all those things that I heard. I mean, a little bit of that rock, a little bit of that she's doing here. And of course,
Mm.
she's a fantastic singer as well. But and just lyrically, how she was moving those lyrics through the song, and it was just floating so nicely over that. I mean, it was just, I mean, just talking about it right now, I was like, oh my God, I'm just getting chills thinking about it. And it really hit me hard. I was like, that's powerful. And she's doing it in Spanish. Okay. I mean, of course, she's a fucking great singer too. So let's not forget that. But I was like, I want to do something like that within my abilities, and so yeah, so that kind of set it off. I was still in those in that I think by this time I had we were doing a little bit of emo had come in, and so we were kind of doing a little bit of that in this different
Mm.
band, just kind of playing around. But Como Los Movies is basically a continuation of this previous band that I'm about to share. And so I again had done this band called Chateau Grupo de Rock. It kind of morphed into this other thing called Pan American Standard that was a little more emo and stuff, and it was mostly the same members in the band. And and then at one point we were in Dallas recording an EP for the Pan American Standard, and then the singer in the band came to me. He goes, "Hey man," because I wrote lyrics. I helped write with lyrics a lot, and I
Yeah.
was writing on the lyrics, but not singing. So I've always been writing lyrics. And he said, "Hey man, would you mind helping me out with the second verse? I can't. We're gonna go and go record shopping." And I said, "Yeah, man, I'll stay back here and I'll come up with something." So I wrote the verses in Spanish because at that point, this is 2002. I'm just full on into really digging this, from Shakira in '99, 2000 to listening to that, and then just started really listening to this other stuff, and it's all at this point it's all Latin music, and mostly the what's considered the rock en español movement that started in the late 80s, early 90s,
And
which again
can you
I missed all
define
that.
that? Can you define what that
Ah,
sound was?
it's it started off very sounding very, one would argue that very, those elements of like ska and
Yeah.
fast punky, but once you had all these other bands coming in, it became basically a combination of. So I'll tell you this: the two of the biggest bands in the rock en español movement when they first started, when it fucking broke big, was a band called Maldita Vecindad. They're still around, and they definitely you hear ska elements in there, but it was the first time the Mexican rock bands, if you will, we'll just call them rock for lack of a better term, or alternative bands, were becoming known internationally. And like, oh, Mexico does have, a wealth of music that's not, rancheras or mariachi. It's actually,
Yeah.
oh, this is modern and contemporary. So to give you an idea, so like Maldita Vecindad was the first one to sell 1 million records. But then you had a band called Café Tacuba that combined some of those elements to a little bit of ska flavor, if you will. And again, there's so much to the rock en español that I'm going to cover a little bit. Argentina was also blowing up with the bands like Soda Stereo. They were very borrowing a lot from The Cure and that whole new wave movement.
Mm.
So you had that coming. But he also you had us the Fabulous Cadillacs, who definitely were more maybe punk and ska. So you had again these elements. Those were the popular ones, I think. And you have Café Tacuba came in, and they were like, "Hey, we like all those things, but we're going to include some of the traditional Mexican music in this, which was not mariachi, but more like boleros, and also guapangos, which is
Mm.
the folk music in Mexico that doesn't get as much attention as mariachi stuff. So those elements were in the 90s were really big in the rock en español movement. But you had rock bands too. You had in hip hop. And what I can recommend actually, and I'll send you a link if you're interested. I can Rompelo Todo, I think is what it's called, but it's during the pandemic this Netflix premiered this documentary on that scene. Yeah,
Nice.
so I'll send it to you. You're gonna love it. And so I mean, and it focuses a lot on Argentina and of course Mexico and Spain. But that'll give you a great. It's like I think it's like maybe several episodes. I'm not sure how many, but you're gonna love it because it'll start with the early movements in Mexico, and you're gonna learn a lot about how, like Argentina, which I didn't know this, but Argentina was worse, I think, where the government prohibited
Oh,
any yeah, oh yeah, man. I mean, it was illegal. You'd go to jail or you get, it was rough. It was really, especially
why?
not in Mexico, because again, they didn't want just like what we saw with the protests. They didn't want the youth, having their
Damn
say.
the man. That's
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
ridiculous.
And again, that
But the
was
thing
I
is, that just makes you want to do it more, right?
exactly. I mean, that's why you have the rock and roll movement that finally the the kids in the 90s from Mexico and all over Latin America were like, this movement was catching on. But uh yeah, so I'll send you that. I think you'll love it. And actually, I need to rewatch it again. It's so good. But that'll give you a really good idea of what was happening in Latin America and how now it's really crossed over. I mean, you've heard the Besame Mucho concert. Did you hear about that Besame Mucho at Coda that happened in March? I believe it was March.
No, no, no.
So a lot of those bands, those legacy, which are legacy artists now, came and played, and 55,000 people packed Coda. My wife and I
Damn,
went. Yeah, yeah,
damn.
yeah.
I'm just not
And
plugged in. That's the
yeah,
problem. I need to be learning. I need to be following you
and you would
more,
have
I
loved it
think.
because all those bands that I'm describing, they were there. A lot of like, and then, but they mixed it not only with the rock and español, but they also had like the ones that my mom and my tios used to listen to, when I was a little kid. Yeah, until some of those legacy artists were there. It might have not been them, but
Wow.
it's maybe one or two was still left, but might have been their nephews or their sons, and continue those bands. But yeah, that was a big change. So I think we were talking about the lyrics. So I did those lyrics in Spanish, and I came and they got back and they're like, "Hey man, you come up?" So I'm like, "Yeah, man, it's just the same melody you had. I just did some lyrics in Spanish, kind of follow what you were doing." And I think the theme is correct, but we can change that around. And next thing I know, I think I went to the restroom or something, and I overheard them saying like, "We can't do this in Spanish." Mind you, they were all Mexican American guys too in the band,
Uh,
and they were like, "We can't do this." I'm like, "Yeah, we can." And again, they weren't listening to what I was into either. I tried to turn them on to it, and they were just like, "Oh yeah, cool, man," and whatever. And but my brain was already sort of my ear, sort of. I think my whole philosophy about music and what I wanted to do was clearly changing. And so as soon as we got back from that recording session in Dallas, I quit the band because I was very hurt that they didn't want to use Spanish and also that they didn't want to bring out instrumentation into the band. And I said, well, we're not gonna. I don't want to just play guitar, guys. Let's bring not even really Latin, but just some keys and maybe some shakers or just something,
yeah.
And now they would go for it. So I left the band and then formed a band called Manejabeto, and that definitely was a project where I was able to bring these elements that I was hearing, from the rock and español movement and stuff, and then just kind of bringing my own thing. And I'm like, oh, yeah. And so yeah, I found some like-minded guys, and we put out the three records. Yeah, we put out three albums, and then that ended as 10 years of that, and it was okay. It's time to move on. And then I formed Como Las Movies, and at that point,
And
that
what
didn't
year was
last.
this?
2013 when I formed
Okay.
Columbus Movies.
Okay.
2013, and unfortunately, the start to that was very short-lived because there was a lot of tension. Some of the old members of Manejabeto were part of it, and then we were just. I think everybody was in a different place at that point. I was trying to force something with some of these members from the previous band, and it was just not working out. So next thing you know, I had a different lineup. That didn't work out either because the vision that I had, they had a different vision as well. So next thing you know, it's just me and my laptop the following year. And I'm just like, so really, I'm not doing anything for almost a year and a half, 2 years. I didn't, we played again. I think I finally formed a band with another lineup. I had Rene Chavez on guitar and vocals, myself on keys and guitar, Jaguar on bass, who's still with us, and Alfredo on drums, who's still with us as well.
Hmm.
And we put out the EP. Then we again that worked out because what I ended up doing was that I'm just gonna write my own songs. I'm gonna record my own songs and record some demos so I can because that's what I love to do. I just didn't want to stop doing it. I
Right.
was okay with not performing, but it's just if you're an artist, you just have that need to create.
Sure.
And so I ended up by 2016, 2017, we got going, and that lasted, I think, until the pandemic. Yeah, until the pandemic. And then that's when a lot of people got divorced and stuff,
Oh,
and then
it's
bands
heartbreaking.
break up as well. Bands break up as
Yeah.
well. And
Yeah.
so Rene decided to leave. And again, this is all it was great because we had a great relationship, and it was very amicable, and we're still great friends. And in fact, he's gonna work with me on this new album. So he decided to leave, and then Alfredo, the drummer, he left as well, and that was it. And I said, okay, well, you know what? Como las movies that we had a run, I guess this is as good as it's gonna get. And so there was no band in pandemics. Again, I'm in the same place again, where it just
Ugh.
stop, stop, start, stop, start, stop, start, stop, stop. or pauses, I guess. But to me, they felt like, full stops at that, especially
Yeah, tell me how
this
you
one
are.
was cool.
Like, this has got to be like, this sounds so challenging. It sounds so frustrating. Like, and the thing is, man, like a musician like you, it's so hard by its nature. The business is so hard by its nature.
Yeah.
And then you're just, you have all these things that keep coming up and interrupting what you feel like is your progress. Like, how were you, how did you cope with that artistically? I mean, was there ever a time when you're just like, fuck it, I'm done? Or
Well,
what? Like,
during the pandemic, when they decided to, I decided, well, I'm just gonna stop now. I think it's time. I'm just tired. I was really, really like to your point. I was like, I'm just done. And mainly because I was like, I didn't want to look for a singer, like, because I've never, up until recently, 2 years ago, I've never been a front person. Never wanted to be one.
seriously,
It was never anything I was interested in doing.
that is shocking. That is
I like
shocking.
being,
Your voice is
I well,
so good. Damn.
well, and
What?
the thing is, and that so that was my and the thing is, I never considered myself a singer, and I still don't, to be honest. But I'm working really hard to, I'm working on it. I'm working on it to be a better singer. But the thing for me was that was really it. Like, I'm just so tired, and where am I going to find a singer? I'm just tired of this. And really, that was it. And so that's when it came to, I guess from 2013 up until 2020 was, connect what we were saying is like in 2020, yeah, 2020, 21, I guess, yeah, I was like, I'm done. I'm just 2020, I'm done. I'm just like,
Mm.
I don't want to look for another singer. I'm just like, and I remember my bass player, Jaguar was like, nah, we can be like, no, man, I'm just done. Like, I don't feel like looking for, I don't know where, like, wow, we can try this person. Like, I don't want to do that anymore. It's so tough. So what happened was it was over and it was fine. I was still writing though, because again, what I said earlier, as a creator, as an artist, anybody, doesn't matter, it doesn't be music, just whatever, if you're a creative person, and it could be carpentry, it could be, plumbing, whatever, you're gonna keep doing it. You're gonna keep being creative. So I was still writing and stuff and jamming, and I had all this equipment. I was like, well, shit, man. It's like, because the only time I actually took a break from playing music, I think 6 months the whole time, all these like 20 something years, maybe 6 months, the longest I gone
Damn.
without doing anything musically. Obviously, those pauses that happen in como las movies from 2013, and on. I mean, I was still creating, but I think 6 months, the longest I've gone without just not doing anything related to music. Maybe going to see shows, but not even
And how
picking up
was
the guitar.
that? Was that horrible?
No, no, I was in college, so it
Oh,
was good. I got
got it.
to, I got to focus on school. So,
Good, good.
but the only reason that stopped was because again, like bands do, they break up, and so no, I decided, I'm just done here. 2021, we were able to travel now and stuff like that. So my wife and our friends, we decided, hey, let's go to Mexico City. Let's go over there, because we hadn't been since 2019, before the pandemic. It was all, the trip was planned to run a reservation that my wife was able to make at Pujols, which is an amazing Michelin star restaurant in Mexico City. Like if you ever go to Mexico City and if you can get a reservation at Pujols, you gotta go. It's
I'm
amazing, man.
down.
Wow, and man, that mole there. Oh God.
Oh,
Anyways,
my mole is my favorite.
yeah,
It's my favorite dish.
I'll send you a
Oh,
link to that. I promise. I'll send you the
okay,
link to
okay.
that. So we planned the trip out there. Oh, I think what we had done, yeah. So I think maybe that year as well, we had done something for Sims. Man, that because the years are kind of so for Sims. And then Renee quit. So no, he quit in 21. Sorry, he not in 2021 is when he quit. I'm confusing the times. But anyway, so he had quit. Yes, right, because he had quit that summer. Yeah, so he quit in the summer 21. So at that point, I was like, I'm just done, whatever. And again, I was kind of done anyways because the drummer had quit. So where am I going to find a drummer and all that? But more importantly, I couldn't find a singer, so I was done. So later that year, in October, we planned this trip, and then my old drummer we happened to be talking again, which is really cool. And I said, "Hey, man," and he was going through heavy stuff, and I said, "Hey, man, we're going to Mexico City. You want to join us? So you can
Is
get
this
out of Austin."
Alfredo?
Yes, Alfredo,
Yeah.
yes. And I said, "Hey, man, I know you're going through some tough times. Why don't you join us? We're going, me and our friends and our group of friends. Why don't you come join us?" And he goes, "Fuck yeah, let's go." And then like the next day, he's like, "Hey, dude, we should DJ over there because he's a DJ as well. He's been a
Oh,
DJ for a long time."
dude, that guy is such a badass. Like, I don't know anybody that does as much shit as he does. He is every fucking where. and he's really good.
Oh, he's amazing. He's actually on tour right now with Brother Social
I
Lamar.
know,
So
I know.
I miss him a lot. And so then he's like, "Hey man, let's go DJ with us." Like, I don't DJ. He goes, "Well, learn." And I'm like, "What do you mean?" And he goes, "I'll lend you my turntable and you can learn." I was like, "Let's go," because it was we were scheduled to it was for scheduled for December, so this was October, and I said, "Yeah, man, I'll learn, sure." Because again, I really took to it. I was really, and I said I was good, but I was really. I guess what I'm trying to say, is I really love the whole idea of DJing because I always admire DJs. It's a whole different beast as a guitar compared to guitar or keyboard. But if you can keep time, you'll be fine. Just find the one
Hmm.
and you can DJ. But again, at a very basic level, obviously, that's what I'm talking about. Because I by no means am I. It's really really. Let me make clear that it's not as easy as I'm making it seem because it's
Yeah, they
not.
don't get a whole lot of respect. People think they
No,
just
no,
stand up
and
there
they
and
are
flip
musicians,
switches.
and
Yeah,
I will say
yeah,
DJs are musicians, even though people might not give them that. They are musicians, and so
yeah.
a friend of mine, Silent Rob, who's a DJ, he gave me some pointers. Also, Trey Lopez from Peligrosa gave me some point. Got to hang out with him. They gave me some pointers. So I'm gonna DJ. I said, man, you know what? Cool. I don't have a band anymore, but I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna be a DJ. I'm gonna learn how to DJ. I want to do this. And that was and that's what I was gonna do. And I was practicing, and I got to DJ in Mexico City. It was really cool. People were dancing. Like, whoa, this is actually pretty cool. They're actually. I sound like. I mean, I wasn't great at all, but it was a great. It was so much fun. So we had two DJ gigs, and yeah, people were into it, man. I was playing tracks that I liked. Everything. From cumbias to pop stuff, to old school new wave and everything under the sun. It was so much fun. So that was I was like, cool, this is what I'm gonna do now. I'm gonna be a DJ. And next thing you know, we are coming back from Mexico City after our DJ gigs, and Alfredo was like, hey man, he has a side project called Easy Compadre, and he goes, why don't we come back to Mexico City, man, and play some gigs? I'm like, okay, cool. Yeah. I mean, I can help you. I'll be a roadie, sure. Because at this point, I had been roadieing for them too, like locally at least. I was helping them out again. I wasn't in the band anymore. So I was helping
Hmm.
everybody
Hmm.
out. I just want to go support and stuff like that, which is kind of nice. It was actually kind of nice. Maybe not dragging big amps, but it was still nice just to be able to go see music, not having to have the responsibility to go on stage and or make sure everybody can make it to the show and all those responsibilities that come with being in the band. Anyways, and so he's like, and I'll never forget. He's like, well, no, we'll have como las movies. I said, bro, there's no como las movies. I told you, there's no band. I've been telling you this since summer. He goes, well, I said, besides, who's gonna sing? He goes, you're gonna sing. I'm like,
Hell yeah.
well, I said, hell no. I didn't say it like, that, but I was like, I remember like that's fucking ridiculous. Like, no, I'm not gonna sing. And plus, who's gonna back me up? He goes, well, Easy Compadre will back you up. And I'm like, no, I don't know, man. And he's like, no, man, you should do it. And I'm like, have you heard me sing? He goes, no, you're fine, man. You're fine. I'm like, and so then he planted that seed in my head and we get back home and I talked to my wife about it. I said, what do you think? Like, you've heard me sing. What do you think? She goes, it's fine. I was like, well, if you think it's okay, I'll do it. But if I don't want to embarrass you on stage, I don't want, because you're gonna have to come to my shows, at
Oh
least
my
one of
God.
them. And I don't want to embarrass you. No, seriously, this is a conversation. This is the actual conversation. I remember it like it was yesterday. And I see, and then I remember it was a very, actually, I'll be honest, it was a very emotional moment for me because like this is a decision that I have to either I do this or I don't. And again, I mentioned that I was writing, so I was like, man, I have these songs that never came out, and I want to work on these. And and so then I was like, well, I'll give it a try. And a part of me was like, I'll give it a try just to say I did. Just so I can, just to go, really a reason to go back to Mexico City. But I really wasn't buying it. I was like, this is not gonna work for me. I'm not buying this. And what ended up happening was I went to take lessons from the fantastic Noel Hampton, a great singer from the Bell Sounds, and ended up doing that and taking some lessons. And the next thing you know, April of 2022, I end up debuting as a front person in Como Las Movies with Easy Compadre backing me up. And
Mm.
it went okay. It wasn't bad. We played two shows, and again, people didn't know who we were. We played, did like a 6-song set. I was like, okay, that wasn't too bad. I wasn't nervous. The craziest thing is that I wasn't nervous. I mean, I was nervous up until I had to do it. Obviously, I don't think it's good if you don't get nervous at all. Obviously, you got to have that. little
Yeah.
butterflies in your tummy, right? I think that's
Yeah,
important
yeah.
for anything like that, any performance. And then next thing you know, I we had a couple of gig. We had one gig in May, and then but when we got back, I get a call from people at C3. They're like, "Hey, would you like to play Format Festival in Arkansas?" I was like, "What? Yeah."
What?
I was like, "What?" I said, "Really? Yeah, we want Como las movies." I was like, "They didn't, I know they weren't in Mexico checking me out, but no." So we got invited to play the festival, and that year I'm conflating it with this year because I went this past year to go support Leslie J Naga. Who was headlining? Oh, it was Flaming Lips. It was
Oh, wow.
War on Drugs.
Hmm.
I mean, like, serious
Hell yeah.
festival. Who else played? Oh, there's so many, man. It's like I just can't think right now because I went to go see a bunch of stuff. It was so amazing. And so we got to play. Yeah, we had like an afternoon slot and it was great. We played in this barn. It was fantastic. It was great. We had a great time. And that was
So it was you, hold on, you, Jaguar, Alfredo, and who else at this
at
time?
that point. Oh yeah, sorry. So, yeah, so then fast forward, right? So by the time we did the Format Festival, Easy Compadre backed me up because I didn't have a band. I mean, I
Ah,
really wasn't sure this was even going to work. But then they called me for Format Festival. I was like, oh shit, okay. This is serious. Okay, this is a real
mm,
gig. I mean, they're all real gigs. Let me say, I guess I'll take that back. They're all every gig, no matter what it is a real gig.
sure.
But this was one that I needed to have. I guess what I'm trying to say is that I needed to have a solid band. And Easy Compadre was doing their thing, but they agreed to go out with me and Jeff at this point was back on bass. Because he
Okay.
didn't go to Mexico with me actually. We ended up doing it as just Easy Compadre and myself, and then when we did Format, he was already, Jeff was back in. And and then next thing you know, while that's happening, we ended up doing a gig at Stubbs, and that was really the first time when I was like, I can't just stand there, I'm not that type of singer. I'm not just one to stand there because I don't want to bore, I don't have that kind of voice, to just, where people are just, are just gonna just be drawn to that and nothing else matters. No, I need to, and plus, more importantly, I think the kind of performers, front people that I would see, I loved. I mean, there's definitely something to be said about commanding the stage, right? As cheesy as
Sure.
it sounds, but there's
No, no,
something to be
that's
said
right.
about it.
That's right.
And and for some reason, that light bulb went off at this gig, the Stubbs gig prior to Format. It was in August. It was a month before Format. So, okay, I really gotta find my identity at this show so I could be ready for Format. And it was those things that were going in my head as a front person because all these years I was just playing guitar and keys and I was on the a sideman. It was great. I loved it,
So interesting. Wow.
But now I'm a front person, and the first rule I learned, Amanda, was you can't drink when you're on stage. You can't. But when you're a performer, there's no way to do it. And I learned that at Stubbs because I mean, not that I drink a lot, on stage or when I perform, but when you're a side guy, a side performer, it's like, it's like, I'll have a little more of this, I have a little of that, I'm fine, I can still play my parts. But when you're performing and you're, the front person, there's a lot of energy there,
Yes.
being used, if you will, right? So burning a lot of energy, in a really good way, of course. So I I remember I had like I think I might have had like 2 beers, but not even those two. That was too much, man. But only because I remember feeling a little exhausted after, and I don't really get exhausted like that easily like that. But anyhow, I was talking about my identity, and I think I was like, okay, what would I want to see when I'm on stage? And yeah, so I did a little bit of this, a little bit of that, not too much, and kind of just feeling it out, and the crowd response was fucking amazing. And I was like,
Nice.
oh, okay, this is working. I'm being more myself now. I'm being more of the kind of person that I am. I'm a chatterbox. I'm very social. So why don't I let that be happen on stage? Why don't I let be myself be on stage? And yeah, and it just kind of worked. And I remember doing these late. And I would be practicing here in our spare bedroom. For I have the equipment and stuff. And I'd be like, okay, what what do I feel? How do I feel comfortable moving? What is going to be my personal dance, if you will, my own movements, I guess. What is again just discovering these things. So yeah, I saw the connection that I made and I realized, oh, this is really connecting with a crowd, which is what you want your music to do anyways. And but now, besides the music, now it's me, I'm also a conduit, if you will.
Yep.
And yeah, so then when the format did that and kind of was a little more comfortable because I had a month to prepare. And then ACL, they call, hey, we'd love to have you on on stage. I said, okay,
Wow.
okay,
That is
okay. And
incredible. That is
yeah,
incredible. Like it just like
it's
boom, all of a sudden, there it
yeah.
is. Wow.
Yeah, all of us after all, after all these years,
Right.
right? And again, but it's not that I ever expected it. I think if you go into this expecting or that you feel you deserve any of this, don't even bother. Don't even fucking
Yeah.
bother being in the business. You do it because you love to create and you love to perform. And I think what got me through, you mentioned all this, this how the struggle, right? And all this well, a lot of it is, just the desire to create and the fact that maybe I was wired, to just really be for to live and to live music's gonna be part of my whole life. I was wired that way and also my cousin and all these other people who influenced me, who are part of it. But especially my cousin. I always want to make sure that he gets the credit. I mean, he's no longer with us, but
Mm.
yeah, I hope he gets the credit he deserves because I think he would have dug it, and I think he would have been part of our team, and he probably would have been a roadie and all that stuff because he loved all that stuff. And then we do the HCL, and I'll tell you a funny story about that. So then we had been working on a single, which is Cafe, and that was really my first time recording a song with me singing on. It. It was so tough. It was really really
Yeah.
tough to do,
It's a great
just because
song.
of the Thank you, thank you. And I knew that I wanted a female singer on there because Rene Chavez, the former singer, we had been writing that song when he was still in the band in 2019, 2020, 2019, I think we were working on it. 2020 maybe, and we were trying to record it, I remember now, in early 2021, I remember, because he was, like I said, he was still in the band at that point. But again, it was one of those things where we were just doing it just to do something. And so he's a co-writer, and so he was singing that part, I believe. Well, he was singing the whole song, but then I realized, you know what? It'd be nice to make the song a little more interesting with having someone sing the pre-chorus, if you will. And so we got Sheila on board. The reason I bring that up was ACL called, and then I'm thinking, oh, let me see if Sheila, who's in Miami, might want to come in because she had done ACL the year prior. And I said, maybe she'd be willing to come to ACL and sing the song with me on stage. That'd be great because now it's ACL. Let's do this. Let's make it a big deal. It's a big deal, and let's put on a show
Hell yeah.
and let's have so whatever. So she's like, yes, I'd love to do it. So then she asked me, hey, she's like, hey, what stage are you playing? I said, I don't know, the Honda stage. So I think one of those little stages or something like that. And she goes, the Honda stage is not a little stage, Nelson. I'm like, what are you talking about, dude? You're playing that stage? And I'm like, yeah. She goes, I didn't play that stage. I played one of the smaller stages. And you're playing that stage? So I was like, yeah, but like, what about it? It's like it's one of those ones the little ones, right? She goes, no, that's the biggest one or the second biggest one. So then
Wow.
I go on YouTube and then of course I see, Rosalia and I see Billie Eilish and all these huge acts playing on that fucking stage. Like, oh my fucking God.
No
That's
pressure, man. No pressure.
and mind you, I had just taken the reins as a front person in April of that
Wow.
year because this is ACL Festival 2022. So at that point, I realized, okay, this has got to be. I need to fill up this stage, because I looked at it, I was like, that thing is huge, and you really don't have a good idea, a clear idea until you're there in person to see how big it is. Holy fucking shit!
Wow.
And so we played Saturday, so I went on Friday and went to go check it out. I was like, oh my God, that thing is fucking huge. But we prepared Sheila Gonzalez. She's actually the one we played. I think I mentioned earlier in our conversation. That we backed her up during Latina Palooza for South by. So
Hmm.
she was instrumental in bringing some dancers, and our last song is one of the last songs is cumbia, and so we said so because we knew we had a big stage, we had the room. I was like, you know what? Why don't we bring some dancers to do some cumbia dancing while we do the last song? And so it was great. We had like four amazing dancers come in. Thanks to Sheila who connected me with those folks, and oh, it was fantastic. It was great, and we had it. it was one of those shows where I just couldn't believe that it was happening, and it went by too fast. But we worked our ass off, and it was a great time. That's People asked me afterwards, "What do you think of ACL?" I said, "Man, it was magical." I mean,
Wow.
every musician who works their ass off, hopefully will get an opportunity to do that someday because it really is magical. I mean, being and I don't know if I'll ever be on a stage that big again, but man, it was the stage was great because you had all the space and you had to work that stage. And the only thing that I regret is I wish they would call me back to do it again because now I'm way more comfortable. And I think would have really maximized the use of that stage more myself, right? Myself, because I was still super nervous and just wanted to make sure I didn't, fuck up my performance and, didn't really engage as much as I could because again, it's a huge fucking stage for one thing.
Yeah. Yeah. But
That's
the fact
sad.
that you rose to the occasion, and I think that's the important thing, right? Like you definitely are. I mean, this is the thing, right? I talked to a lot of creative people on this podcast, and the amount of effort, the amount of work, the amount of blood, sweat, and tears that goes into your art and over such a long period of time. And as you said, with no guarantee of success, right?
Yeah.
It's so wonderful. Like, I love hearing people finally get the recognition they deserve. I love it when it pays off and people finally get to see this is what, and you're, whether or not you feel nervous, you're finely tuned. You've been doing this for 20 fucking years, right?
Yep.
So
Mhm.
you have chops, right? Whether, we all have our perceptions about our abilities or whatever, but
Sure.
it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing when people get noticed finally. And I
Yeah.
think, there's been a lot of buzz, at least in Austin, around Como Las movies, and I think you will continue to get attention because you are that good. I was listening to your whole like catalog today before because I knew we were going to talk,
Yeah.
and it's just such great music. Like even if you're a person that isn't familiar with Latin music, you can get into your catalog and you're going to really start feel there's a lot of influences in there. Like you said, you're mixing things around. I noticed a lot of influence of like that new wave electronic sound, and I mean, this is obviously I'm it's just my opinion, but like the recent song that you did with Sabrina Ellis Laces was
Yeah.
is magic. I mean, it is so fucking good. And like that's the thing that makes me want to just like s smash against the wall. Like your voice is so good on that track and her voice is so good and it's like a
She's amazing.
perfect match.
They're amazing.
So
Yeah,
good.
they're amazing. Yeah, they're
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So I
let's
mean
cut
like
that.
yeah, go
Do
ahead.
me a favor. Let's cut that. I said she on there because I should know better. They're amazing.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't know. Is Sabrina Ellis
Yeah,
is Faye.
yeah, they're they. Yeah,
Ah, I
yeah.
am so
I
sorry.
keep I
Yes.
keep forgetting all the fucking time myself. So, but yeah,
Okay, okay.
let's make
I had
sure
no
that
idea. Otherwise,
cut.
I would not have. Okay. All
Well,
right. Well,
I mean,
yes.
they're not gonna get mad at me, but they'd be really annoyed. They'd be like, Nelson, how long have you known me? Oh, yeah, you're right.
Okay, okay, okay. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah. So
mean,
they identify as they. They identify as they.
absolutely, absolutely. I'm going to in my show notes. I know you're on you have a hard stop here, so I'm going to
Yeah.
include links to all your stuff, your you know
Okay.
social media, where people can find you, where people can get your music. You're going to be playing, I saw in next month or the month after, you're going to be playing Mohawk. Are you playing with
Yeah.
Jack O'Brien's
Yeah.
Starflake, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. That's our next. Our next Austin show is I believe it's June 28th is the date,
Okay.
and it's a little festival that it's Jackie, I guess is his brainchild, and yeah, hopefully we can get folks to come out and support Starflake, who's I mean I think that's Jackie's side project, and yeah, it'd be a nice mix, and we've been talking about it for a while, and so he's like, hey, you guys want to do it? I said, yeah, man, it'd be great. So I think not only is it just going to be the two bands, but we're going to have a lot of artists. We invite, so it'll be a little more than just Como las movie songs and Starflake songs. I think we're gonna combine and maybe do some covers and stuff. I've got some ideas, and I'm hoping I can get if Sabrina, if they're in town. I have this idea of this particular old school song that was huge in the 60s, 70s, early 70s that mom and dad and would play and stuff. And so, well, not dad, but moms and dads would listen to and play
Hmm.
from that era. But that, I won't say anymore because until I can confirm, then I'll share a little more about that because it's gonna be fun. The other thing too, we have a gig. We're playing the Bastrop Pride Festival on June 2nd, which I'm really excited
Sweet.
about. We got invited to do that, so we'll be out there. Never played Bastrop, so I'm excited about that. And working on a new record actually. And I do want to say one last thing, just 'cause I think
Yeah.
it's really important. You had mentioned about what's coming up. I have been working with various local artists. What I decided to do this time was, as como las movies, I definitely collaborate with my bandmates, but I'm the principal composer, songwriter. But I decided to bring, and I love collaborating, so I decided to bring some local artists to help me with some of these tunes that I have stuff that's half done and little pieces here and there, and I've had some wonderful artists come and join me, and so yeah, some local artists that people will, as soon as we get closer to finishing the record, I'll definitely be sharing all that. Yeah, I'm really excited to showcase these collaborations. But I always wanted to collaborate. Now that people have been really kind and saying yes about coming over to the house and we work on some stuff. It's been great. Here's what I have. What do you think? Oh, let's try this. And it's been great. The collaborations have been amazing. I'm
Right
really excited
on.
about them.
Right on.
It's always something I want to do is and to work with artists that I admire and whoever was available and hopefully Sabrina and I can get together again. I know they have a very very busy schedule this
Mm.
summer. I'm hoping that we can get together and collaborate on a new tune or something. But yeah, I'm excited. I'm really excited and we actually tomorrow we'll do a session. Sunday I have a session and we've been working. We've been working.
Hell yeah. I love it when good people win, man. I really do. And I think you've
Uh,
earned it. You've
thank
definitely
you.
earned it. So
Thank you.
all the success to you. I'll be at the whatever what is it called? What are
Flake
we calling it?
Fest, Flake
Is it called
Fest.
Flake Fest? God, I love
I
that
think it's
shit.
Flake Fest. Yeah, I think it's called Flake
Okay,
Fest. Yeah.
well, I will be there for sure. I
Okay.
cannot wait, and I'll try to catch you. I don't know if I'm going to make it out to Bastrop for their pride, but yeah, I highly encourage any of my millions, haha, of listeners, if you get a chance to go see Como las movies live, because there is nothing better than live music. There really isn't. Can I get an
100%.
amen? Yeah.
Amen.
All right, man. Thanks so much for your time. You were really generous with your time. I appreciate it.
Yo, I told you, man. How much time do you have? Because
Uh,
it's a long, it is a long